So for those who are joining for the first time today, I'm Dr. Srinivasa Sastry, Malladi, and I'm a psychiatrist by profession. We have done session 1 of psychology through ancient Indian literature. And I have made a disclaimer that this is work in progress in the sense that um, I am trying to do sincere research into various aspects of what can be called as psychology, because the word psychology or manasika chikitsa or mano vijnana may not or is not necessarily mentioned anywhere in ancient literature, because that was not separately kind of uh, discussed, just like how we do so much of specialization nowadays in modern world. So the idea is to see what are those references that we can come across in ancient Indian literature. That is what we should be focusing on. Coming from a Bharatiya background, it's obviously a matter of curiosity, but as much as what I would consider as rerouting to dharma, as I call it, an opportunity for us to go into the depths of ancient wisdom and see how much of it applies to modern life. Ultimately, if it is not applicable to modern life, then it's no more than a bit of nostalgia and saying that we have done such great things in the past. So that's where possibly historical greatness or pride into historical cultural richness would come into. But we know that anyway. But now our step should be continuing the research, because ancients were very good researchers. At some point over the last 1,000 years or so, there has been a big break in that continuity of research. So perhaps it is left to us to restart research or continue where we have left off. So that's the disclaimer from my side, that this is an attempt, and I'll be happy for alternative viewpoints and challenges, and we'll be happy to take the discussion forward. Like the first session, we will leave the questions to the end, if that is okay with you, or when I say we are taking a break for questions. So just to kind of recap where we left off, I want to kind of recollect for the welfare of, for the benefit of every participant here, that I was comparing with the modern concept of cognitive behavioral therapy. What was I comparing? The Rasa Siddhanta of Natya Shastra. And for the cognitive behavioral therapy model in psychology, we have a triad called a cognitive triad, where our thoughts, emotions, and actions, they all work together and result in a lot. If it is a distressing emotion, it leads to a lot of distress. If it is a happy emotion, it leads to that. And so it's a triad. And what is triggered by it? It's a situation. So just to remind you all from this little video, which I have shown, of this lady who seems to be very scared. Okay, so she's scared, frightened. What is frightening her? That's the situation. So perhaps there are some ghosts in the background. So there's some ghosts in the background which are frightening her. That's the situation. She can actually feel her heart racing. She must be really panicking, trembling, and she is. That's the emotion she's experiencing, of fright, fear, and thoughts would be that she wants to escape. These ghosts are going to eat her away, and she needs to run, otherwise she is going to die. So these are the thoughts that she is having. Of course, those thoughts amplify the emotion and makes her more frightened. So they work together. One troubles the other. And the actions could be in the form of making efforts to run away and so on. Rasa Siddhanta is somewhat different. It's not to be understood as an exact replica or equals of cognitive behavioral therapy. By no means am I trying to push that narrative here. The idea is to kind of see whether it is out of interest for me when I was reading Natya Shastra and Rasa Siddhanta that I thought we need to look into the details of it. So in Natya Shastra, we have the sutra, which is Vibhava Anubhava Vyabhichari Sanyogat Rasa Nishpattihi. I put it in English here, but it's there in Sanskrit as well. So it is the combination of Vibhava, which is the triggering situation. Anubhava would be referred to as two things. One is consequent action, another is the body physiology itself, like the lady who was frightened, her heart was racing and she was trembling. Those are all also part of Anubhava. And Vyabhichari Bhava is psychological states, complementary psychological states. And in this case, it would be what some of the words used are Chinta. Chinta is worry. And Smriti would be another one, memory, or it could be Dainyam, and so on. We will cover some of it a little later. And the combination of these lead to the production of rasa, which is the fully formed, fully developed emotion. But interestingly, Natya Shastra takes into account that rasa just doesn't come out of nowhere. There is already a seedling in all of us, and that is called as Thayi Bhava. That is the latent emotion. It is nicely sleeping. We have that inside somewhere. For some, it may be a lot more pronounced. For some, it may be a lot more subdued, but it is there somewhere. And it just gets pronounced and becomes fully developed. And therefore, the rasa is formed out of it. So that's a very interesting take from Natya Shastra. And this is the picture I have shown the other day. Why is it important? See, Natya Shastra was not developed for clients in therapy. No, that's not the reason. Natya Shastra was developed for entertainment, entertaining audience through the actors on the stage. So let us assume that the audience are here. You can see them quite happy. They're really kind of delighted with what they're watching. They're amused. They're engrossed. Why did that happen? It is so because they've developed a rasa, hasya rasa, for instance. They must be laughing at something. So it's a hasya rasa. And hasa is the latent emotion which is there, the sthayi bhava. So from that, which was there in them, the fully developed emotion hasya rasa came into being. How did it happen? It happened with the combination of the situation. Well, this must be some yogini sitting there. I'm just putting these pictures to. I'm not saying that this picture is making them laugh. I'm just giving an example here. So this yogini is sitting there, must be some doing meditation or whatever, some tapas, and there must be some very curious people out there. So they're all acting, and they're producing through their actions what is called as anubhava. Okay, and anubhava. So for these audience, whatever they're seeing on the stage is resulting in the rasa. So the situation and their behavior and the body actions. I put it body as body symptoms here because I can only think like a clinician. And then psychological state. Now, this is just to kind of give you an illustration. This mood can actually either develop in, there are different theories. Mood can either develop in the audience or it can actually develop in the actor itself, actor herself or himself. And I won't go into the details of it. The idea is here not to give you the detailed description of Natya Shastra, but to give you just a flavor of it. So, as I said, the comparison here is with CBT. We should accept the limitation that rasa theory or rasa siddhanta was conceptualized with stage drama in mind to entertain audience only. It was not a clinic for a clinical setting. It was not designed for that. And it focuses on rehearsals and artificial recreation. Audience very well know that when they're coming in for a piece of entertainment. They're not coming in there seeking therapy. Okay. Whereas in CBT or psychological therapies, a client comes in seeking therapy for real life problems that they are going through. So that's the difference that we have to keep in mind. But with the understanding that there is definitely a role for us to have develop better understanding. There are two things. One is increasing our awareness of what is happening with our body, increasing our awareness with what is happening with our mind or thoughts, and how we respond to certain situations. What kind of a personality do we have? It is our responsibility to have that awareness. If only we have a better awareness, we can improve on ourselves, we can improve our own personality. Second would be when things really go wrong, my emotions are not in control, my thoughts are not in control, then I would like to seek some form of help. Either way, this is going to be helpful as an initial step to understand what can rasa theory, rasa siddhanta provide to us. Once again, just to summarize, so the vibhava is the primary triggering situation, as I said, and there are two components to it. One is the, let us say, Sita sees, no, I said the other day that Shakuntala and Dushyanta. Shakuntala sees Dushyanta and she is immediately in love with him. But the background is, let us say, for instance, the cooing of the birds, the chirping of the birds, and the beautiful, gentle flow of the river. They are enhancing the mood, the Sringara Rasa. They are actually enhancing the mood on top of the beauty of Dushyanta himself. Okay. So seeing him is the Alambana Vibhava, and the enhancing mood around it and things which are enhancing are the Uddipana, it is actually lifting lifting the situational importance. So that is the vibhava. So that's the situation. And Dushyanta and Shakuntala is now, let us say, experiencing some sort of a lajja, and she's turning her eyes here and there, and she's kind of fiddling with her fingers, and her heart is beating, and on the stage she would obviously be using her body gestures to display all that. That would be anubhava. All those things that is she's displaying on the stage would be anubhava. Or for us to imagine ourselves being in Shakuntala's position, I am actually experiencing all those bodily changes, manifestations, and then the kind of behavior. I may just be hiding behind a tree, or I may be going towards Dushyanta if I'm daring enough, or I may be just escaping back to the hermitage. That is all put together anubhava. And the psychological state is, oh, this man is handsome, right? This man is handsome. I'm in love with him. What is my dad going to say if I'm going to kind of marry this guy or love him? So whatever be the thoughts that are going through, that's the vyabhichari bhava. It's not just about thoughts alone. These are all put together psychological states as is described. But definitely thoughts are mentioned. And there was the Sringara aspect in this Thai Baba itself, and that is coming out as Sringara Rasa. I forgot what is Sthai Bhava for Sringara Rati, I think. Yeah. So that is the Sthai Bhava, and that becomes Sringara Rasa. Okay. So again, we go back to this lady's example here. I'm trying to repeat it a few times so that people will understand. So in her case, example here is sight of ghost or cruel animals. This lady is seeing ghosts or some cruel animals, and that is the Alambana Vibhava. And Uddipana Vibhava in her case is strange sounds in the background, isolated house, dilapidated house. There's a thunder, there's lightning. That's all. Uddipana Vibhava. Bhayam is the Sthai Bhava. There's already that fear component latent, nicely dormant in her in the past. And the Vyabhichari Bhavas or the psychological state. Sanchari, another name used for Vyabhichari Bhava, if you don't like the word Vyabhichari, is Sanchari Bhava. They are wandering states. So, and they are, for instance, in her case, Avega, which is agitation. Okay. Avega is the agitation. And then Trasa, which is terror. So these are the two psychological states I can relate to among, I think there are about 40 such Vyabhichari Bhavas mentioned. I think it is for us as researchers, if we are to be sincere to Natya Shastra and we can make progress or work and add to that, I don't see any reason why we can't add more Vyabhichari Bhavas or Sanchari Bhavas going forward, depending on the requirements. Let us say it becomes a therapy. Let's call it Rasa therapy, for instance. I don't see any reason why we can't add more names to it, depending on the requirement and the relevance. But anyway, what I can pick up Avega and Trasa as the two Vyabhichari Bhavas that can be well related to it. And Anubhava, she's trembling, she's agitated. We can see the facial expressions and I guess an attempt to escape as well. And the fully developed fear, Bhayanaka. So here are some examples of the Vyabhichari Bhavas or the Sanchari Bhavas when it comes to states of depression. Nirveda, Glani, Jadata, Vishada, Dainyam. Okay, some of those things. So despondency, mental exhaustion, dullness, or being dependent on others, and Vishada, usually from regret. It's based on regret. So there are descriptions given for each of those Vyabhichari Bhavas in Natya Shastra. There are other commentators as well who have made commentaries on it. There were several, but the one of the other commentators I have gone through is Panditraj Jagannatha in his Rasa Gangadhara. So that's some of the states of depression there. In Rasa Gangadhara, it says Dukkha Daridya Aparadadi Janitaha Swapakarsha Bhashanadi Hetuhu Chitta Vritti Visheshaha Dainyam. For an example I've taken here is of Dainyam. So Dainyam is that wretchedness that is really kind of very sorrowful, distressing state. And it's coming from Dukkha, sorrow, Daridriya, which is poverty, Aparadha, has done some offense, and Adi Janita, it has arisen from all those things. Swa Apakarshana Bhashanadi, something on the lines of they are actually kind of cursing themselves and so on. Hetuhu, these are the reasons for the Chitta Vritti Visheshaha Dainyam, of that mental state. This is clearly a description of a mental state, which means it is a thought that must be troubling that person. Okay. In CBT, we have what is called as cognitive distortions. Cognitive distortions are abnormal thought processes which trouble when somebody is depressed or anxious. So the next one is the anxious states, for instance. We have Shanka, Chinta, Smriti, Abega, Trasaha, Outsukya. These are the some of the states. There are a few others, I think, in the next slide. So Shanka is doubt, Chinta is constant worry, Smriti, recollection of good or bad from past, but typically bad, which troubles us. Then Avega, anxiety or agitation, Trasa, terror, Outsukya. These are some of the states. And Rasagangadhara describes what Shanka is. Kim Anishtam Mama, what would be inauspicious for me? So people keep thinking, and we call it rumination in our psychological language. People just tend to keep on thinking and thinking. We call, in layman's term, we say overthinking, right? Chinta, similarly, chinta is constant worry. Ishta apraptihi, anishta praptihi. Ishta apraptihi, something I like, I don't get it. Anishta praptihi, I don't like it and I get it. I don't like is what? Illness, for instance. I don't like illness, I get it. Ishta apraptihi, I want to win a lottery. I don't win a lottery. So there is a chinta developing out of it. And there are vibhavas described for that, determinants. What tends to cause these things? Daridriyam, for instance, Aishwarya Brahmshanam, losing fortune, Chinta Parikirtita Vitarkaha Asyaha Kshane, Urve Paschat Eva Upajayate. So Chinta can actually develop. Sorry, just give me a minute. Yeah, so Chinta can actually develop either before or after a particular situation. So that's what is described here, which is also pretty interesting and makes sense. Constant worry is described as a debate arising before or after the situation. Okay, so that's interesting for us to see. And then if we look at the physiological disturbance that we tend to have in our body when we have anxiety. We have heavy breathing, we have palpitations, hands are shaking, there's sweating, there's tingling sensation, there is reeling sensation, butterfly sensation in your tummy. All these things are described as physiological symptoms in anxiety. Similarly, depression also tends to bring in some body symptoms like pains, aches, total kind of lethargy, and so on. So those are all body manifestations. And typically, we have already seen in Natya Shastra that they are all enacted on the stage to display somebody being depressed or somebody being anxious or somebody being frightened. Shwasa nishwasochvasa ochvasa. So breathing denoting hyperventilation. Avadaha mukham, speechless facial expression. Santapaha, expression and body language indicating sorrow. So these are all enacted. Again, just I know it looks like a horrible picture, but I couldn't find. There is no better picture to this. Talk about an accident. An accident is an accident at the end of the day. So if there is an accident that I have been part of in the past, I have either witnessed it or I have been part of it. Imagine, let us say, and I have terrible fright of getting into the car again. Okay, and I don't like to get into the car again. So now I have no choice but to get into a car. That's the situation. Vibhava. So approaching the car to get into it to travel. Then Vyabhichari bhavas. So I got reminded of past accident, that is the smriti, and chinta will meet with accident again. So that's like a thought, an automatic thought that's come into the mind. Boom. Vyabhichari bhavas. Anubhava, I'm sweating already, I'm having palpitation, I'm trembling at the sight of the car or somebody even talking about the car or travel, the road, all those things. I'm actually, and I'm really resisting to get into the car. People are having to drag me into the car, let us say. So that is all anubhava. And sthai bhava, there was that latent fear, particularly that was part of my personality, let us say. Or the second part is the fear of cars had been already there for many years after that accident. Now, even after many years, it is still when it is ripe, the situation is ripe. The triad of Vyabhichari Bhava, Vibhava, and Anubhava, when it is ripe, it is getting manifested. Another lighter example is, let us say we are as kids in a classroom. I have not done my homework, and the teacher is being a very strict teacher, has come with a cane in her hand. I am already trembling. My goodness, I'm going to get the beating again. It's going to hurt me very badly. My skin will be sore. And what am I going to tell my parents? All those thoughts. And Vibhava is basically Vibhava. The situation is I didn't do the homework. So that's the situation. I didn't do the homework at all. And so Anubhavas are again the past memories of the triggers, and the Anubhavas are, as I said, the sweating and whatever. Now, the reason I put another example is there could be another person whose sthai bhava is not really so prominent as a fear tendency of the personality. It is absent, even though they may have experienced some beating in the past. So, for such a person, the rasa may not actually manifest. So, this is my extrapolation of this, that there could be two scenarios where the sthai bhava in one is pronounced, whereas the sthai bhava in another, the personality is different. And even though they have not, so that guy hasn't done the homework, he doesn't really worry about the caning, although he has the memory of being caned in the past. And Anubhava, he's sitting quite relaxed. He's not anxious. He's not sweating or anything. He's quite relaxed. In his case, perhaps we can say that the Sthai Bhava is there is no latent fear tendency of his personality. And therefore, the rasa didn't develop. He is happily sitting there. The teacher comes and even possibly even beats him again. He is not worried. So that is where I would actually stop, complete that part of the snippet of psychology through ancient Indian literature at this stage. If anybody has any questions, quick ones, so please do ask before I move on to the next topic, which is dependence or addiction as seen through or as mentioned in the ancient Indian literature. So that's going to be the next topic. Any questions so far before I move on?
I got one observation.
Yes, Akila garu.
The observation is that a meditative lady is Vyabhichara Bhava, Avyabhichara Bhava.
Meditating lady.
Meditating lady, yeah.
What is it, sir? Vyabhichari Bhava or?
Avyabhichari Bhava.
There is nothing like a Avyabhichari Bhava.
Avyabhichari Bhava is ekagrata, concentration
That
on
at least is not mentioned.
one thought only. That is Avyabhichari Bhava.
I don't know about it because it's not mentioned in Natya Shastra.
But if you see the Gita, you say Abhyavichara Bhakti. That is concentrated bhakti on one person instead of having number of gods.
Definitely, I think that's an important point to keep in mind, especially when we want to research. But Natya Shastra doesn't talk about
but that's okay.
called as Avyabhichari Bhava. But
maybe that is correct.
That you mention it so that we can look into what it means and how to reach that state. Perhaps the equivalent of it is a culmination of what brings Shantarasa and the related. See, at the end of the day, as I said, Natya Shastra is described keeping in mind a stage play. So whatever is to be acted upon there. So thoughtless state cannot actually be demonstrated on a stage. However, it can be still shown through some action, like for instance, the meditation and so on. So we need to keep that in mind. As I said, Natya Shastra is about how a play is enacted on the stage.
And that's correct. What you put is totally correct. That's not I'm disputing on that.
Yeah.
What I'm just saying is that that word doesn't suit to that situation. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, as I said, it's very important that you mentioned
A meditation cannot be called as Vyabhichara Bhava.
Of course.
That's what I want to bring forward.
Absolutely, there's not. So if we are talking about a thoughtless state, then naturally there is no sancharanam of the thoughts. So naturally, but it's a valid point. Maybe we should include that in the vocabulary when it comes to using in clinical practice if we are serious about developing a concept of rasa therapy. Yeah,
that's okay. This slide can be changed. What I want to say, if you want to provide Vyabhichara Bhakti, Vyabhichara Bhava, that slide can be different. That's what I want to put forward. Instead of showing a meditated lady, show a lady expressing various bhavas.
Yeah. See, okay. So see, it's so difficult to find the pictures that you want to convey, especially Indian themes. There are so many Western themes that we can actually show. Or the other thing is we need to have our own illustrations. So that's the other step. Hopefully in future, have some budget for illustrations. We ask our illustrators to draw pictures according to our concepts. Okay, anybody else has any questions? Okay, if not, we will move on to the next topic. May not be as exciting as the earlier one, but still, I hope I can engage you all. Remind you, as I said, I'm trying to relate things as we see in modern practice and then look at parallels in the ancient times. So there are substances, as we call it. You can see the picture. Somebody has got drunk with alcohol. So that's a substance. Similarly, there are other substances. The most commonly used or most common substance that is used across the world is caffeine through coffees and teas, for instance, but we don't talk about it as a illicit substance, although it has the potential for addiction. But there are other illicit drugs that are used, ganja and opioids and all those kind of things. So those are all substances too. All these can lead to two types of addictions or dependence. One is called as physiological dependence, which is the body is craving for it through its if withdrawal symptoms. Or the second is psychological dependence. I'm either bored, I can't take my mind off that substance, and I want it just for maybe boredom or whatever reason. So there are two aspects. So psychological dependence and physiological dependence. There are other things which also can cause addiction. For instance, our mobile phones are addictive, video games are addictive, and gambling is also addictive. All these can destroy lives of people, lives of families as well. Okay, so there are different stages. One is experimentation, second is regular use, third is dependence, and then it gets worse after that. Now, in Natya Shastra, one of the Vyabhichari Bhavas mentioned is Madaha. And it actually nicely describes three stages in its own way. And but before that, what is alcohol dependence? Alcohol dependence is something where a person keeps drinking alcohol despite knowing very well that it is dangerous to their lives, to their health, despite knowing well that they are choosing alcohol ahead of their family, neglecting them, They very well know that they need to stop it. But the moment they take one more drink, they carry on drinking over and over again. All these things are particularly part of what we call as alcohol dependence. And it's not necessarily for alcohol alone. That dependence can extend to, as I said, gambling. That dependence can extend to video games. For instance, yesterday I went to we are getting some work done in our house. So me and my carpenter, we both went to a shop, and there was this young boy who was sitting in the store, who is in charge there, and he was so addicted, looked like, with his mobile games in his hand. He was not paying any attention whatsoever. I was there for half an hour and he was completely engrossed in it. Unfortunate to say that he's put on a lot of weight, maybe because he's not moving out of his room, playing all these things. So that for me is dependence or addiction as well. And these are serious problems we can't ignore. Um, so in Natya Shastra, Madaha, for alcohol, they describe in three different kinds of people. Again, you can visualize, as I talk, you can visualize how somebody intoxicated comes across on the stage. There are three types apparently. One is Tarunaha, not young as such, Tarunaha, Madhyamaha, and Avakrishtaha. Of these three, Taruna is somebody who is still able to hold on well. He still has a poise. It's not disturbed, but he's smiling to himself, and he's not unsteady. Okay, so that's the Tarunaha. Madhyamaha is somebody who is basically laughing and singing and ending up entertaining others, and he is unsteady on his feet. So it's clear that he is intoxicated. Avakrishta would be the most intoxicated person, and he is causing a lot of nuisance. Okay, and you can, as I said, visualize depending on the particular play that is. A person maybe like Devadas movie. If you are to come look at Devadas, and in that he is obviously in the final stage of, he is dependent. He's basically alcohol dependent. He can't stop drinking alcohol at all, and of course he dies as a result. So that's described. This is mentioned in Natya Shastra. So that is done with, and that's nothing much more to mention there. We now quickly move on to what is called as Akshakitava Ninda in Rigveda. Rigveda has a very interesting description of somebody who actually is a gambler, and he has a wife, he has a mother-in-law, as described in that kind of Rigvedic hymn, and then his own family. So there are all these people who are troubled, as well as he also realizes that it is troubling him. So I won't be going through the Sanskrit text of it. Maybe I'll just read out the first verse. Pravesha ma bruhato madayanti pravateja irina bharvrutanaha somasyeva maujavatasya bhaksho vibhedako jagru virmahyam mahyamachan नमामिमेथ न जिहीक एषा शिवा सखिभ्य उत मह्यमासीत् अक्षस्याहमेकपरस्य हेतोः अनुप्रतामण जायमरोधम्. Okay, Rigveda, I mean, as you know, it's not an easy Sanskrit to understand when it comes to Veda. Not that I'm a great expert, but the later versions of Sanskrit are more easier to understand. Rigveda is not so easy. I'm still trying to kind of listen to more audios and other available sources to understand word by word. For now, I have no choice but to rely on English translation. There's a beautiful book called Sukta Sati, and this is based from that. This is actually from that. So there is the English translation here. I'll just read that. The pendants of the great one born in a windy place and rolling on the game board gladden me. So he's talking to, as if he's talking to that game board, the gambling board. The Vibhidaka has appeared to me, ever watchful like the drought of Soma grown on the Mujavat mountain. Now he's quickly going to talk about his wife. She did not oppose me nor hate me. She was kind to me and to my friends. But for the sake of the dice, which was always higher for me, I have turned away my loyal wife. So he's aware that he's neglecting his wife. Remember, I mentioned about dependence features earlier, being dependent on the habit, despite knowing that they are neglecting their own health, welfare, and that of the family. So it's an example of how the pathological gambling leads one to neglect their family for the sake of the addiction. Then the mother-in-law hates and the wife prevents him from going out to play. As a beggar, he, the gambler, does not find a sympathizer who claims, and he claims, I do not get any enjoyment through a gambler. So he is very well aware that it is a compulsive behavior. That's an excellent description. This is exactly what we see in modern day practice, where patients very clearly say that it is not for enjoyment that I am doing these things. It is a compulsion. I feel compelled. So there's a difference there. Okay. So speaking of enjoyment, dependence problems, also called addiction, is a compulsive behavior which is not enjoyed. However, the addicted person here, the gambler, is stuck in it and finds it difficult to get out of the mess. And then the translation of the other shloka, the verse is, others assault the wife of him whose property the mighty dice covets, so he's lost his property. Father, mother, brothers all say about him, we do not know him, take him away in chains. So again, a typical situation that you would associate with alcoholics and so on. Families fed up. It's an embarrassment that there are financial losses. Neighbors are unhappy. All those things, and families really kind of lose their face in the society. Okay, families often end up making huge financial losses, repaying the debts. When I resolve, I shall not play with these. Now he has an awareness. I don't want to play. And I keep away from my friends who are going away to the gambling hall. So there are cues. For instance, somebody addicted to alcohol, the cues are seeing a bottle of alcohol somewhere, going past a wine shop. These are cues. Once those cues are seen or the smell of it, they are drawn towards it. Just like how he's describing here. But as soon as the brown dice uttered their speech, being thrown on the game board, I go to their appointed place like a lustful woman. That's the exact description there. So he is so drawn to it automatically. The cues are really inviting him, come, play with me. Nothing is going to happen, enticing him, kind of thing. Again, a beautiful description of pathological gambling. Pathological gambling is a diagnosis in our classification systems that is gambling dependence. So a clear description of his awareness of how big a problem it is and how he is making all efforts to stay away from it. You can actually see it through this description. However, he succumbs to the power of addiction and continues the risky, unwanted behavior despite his best efforts to stop it. It goes on like that, but I'll just read out the one highlighted. So he goes to the house of others at night, wanting money as a debtor, but filled with fear. See, he has the awareness that it is a bad behavior, but yet he can't stop himself from begging, going to people's houses at night, asking for money so that he can go back to gambling again. It's quite sad, isn't it? But that's the way a lot of addictions are. Such people end up lying, stealing, risking their lives, risking others' life, risking their reputation, risking their dignity. It goes on like that. So it pains the gambler when he sees a mere woman, that is his wife, reduced to this state, as against the wife and the well-fashioned house of others. Compared, he knows again, he actually talks about it. How come others' wives are actually having a better life, but my wife is having a very bad life? He knows the reason. He knows the reason that it is because of him and his habits. But that's the way the addiction works. So Ruksukta Sati, written by Sri Velankar, was the basis for all these descriptions. So the reference is from that. Okay, so having mentioned this, I think it is important to understand that these are good descriptions for us to. I see it this way. Why am I actually presenting this? Somebody may ask, what is the big deal of talking about this when we know that modern psychology anyway talks about it? So two answers came to my mind. One, interesting that such common man's themes are described, and that too in Rigveda. So that gives me an understanding that society also already had a structure to it. Society had some problems that were being discussed, talked about, and even included in a very precious scripture called Veda. So there must be a reason why this was chosen to be included in it, along with various other things which are usually spiritual in their orientation. Even in this one, there is a spiritual orientation according to another commentator, but I won't go there as such.
Namaskar, Ji. Just as you speak, I'm also reminded of Mahabharata, the Duryodhanan's character. Though he knows what he's doing is wrong, just because he's the side of Adharma, he wants to follow that and he wants to go that one. And the previous person who was speaking about that lady and all, I was just remembered about meditation. The meditation leads to dhyana to samadhi. So what maybe you would have thought about it, the samadhi, beyond samadhi stage, no thoughts. So it could be also interpreted in that way if the picture is so. So thank you, Ji.
So can you elaborate on the second part? I just want to understand better.
Regarding I think the conversation was about thoughtless process.
Vichari Baba mentioned. Yeah.
Yes, the thoughtless. So the thoughtless will lead to beyond, like we have meditation starting with the concentration, dharana, dhyana, samadhi, going beyond that. Yeah. So the ideally what you would have thought about it is going beyond samadhi, the state of which, so that representation of that picture could be like thoughtless state of samadhi state. Instead of meditation, the samadhi could be appropriate so that the other Mahodaya could also understand about it, like it would be a thoughtless state.
Yeah, I think thanks. I think the point there was the picture. The picture there was giving an impression about that, and I would definitely remove that picture and replace it with something else.
Maybe Om. I didn't actually. I joined little late. Sorry, but I didn't look at the picture. But by the conversation, I was thinking maybe a worm also represent with a thoughtless, as we also said.
Yeah, thank you.
That is my
your name, please.
Dr. Gargi Urmila.
Okay, great. Thank you for joining.
Thank you. Thank you, Ji.
Okay, so yeah, so thanks for sharing all that. I'll complete this component just very quickly. So there's another text called Sukhanashopadesha. In this one, a young prince who has been through the Gurukula, who has learned Sorry, I had to mute somebody. Kindly make sure whoever is monitoring, if you can, maybe just mute upon entry is something which you can, admin can look into it. Yeah, so I was mentioning, yeah, Sukhanasha Upadesha. Sukhanasha is the minister actually, who is teaching this young prince on how to lead a dharmic life and yet be a prosperous king. So in that, there is an interesting Lakshmiyaha Chanchalyam is mentioned. The reason I included this is one, of course, to give you an idea that there is a book called Sukhanasha Upadesha. The more I'm mentioning, the more the curiosity, and hopefully there will be more people reading all these things and can revive the habit of reading Sanskrit. That is another kind of byproduct I'm looking for when I'm doing this session. So in that, Lakshmiya Chanchalyam is beautifully mentioned, where Lakshmi is prosperity and it doesn't have any bias. That's a very interesting way to put it. It doesn't really favor somebody particularly, just because somebody is rich, because the rich may also lose fortune in a minute. Or it doesn't necessarily have any sympathy for the poor. Just because somebody is poor, it's going to say, oh, I'm sorry that you're in such a state. It really doesn't. It doesn't really kind of pay any attention, as absolutely zero bias. So one would have observed that in real life, vices or fortune do not necessarily have biases for a person's wealth, looks, their principles, whether they're good principled or bad principled. It doesn't matter to the prosperity. Somebody who could be an evil person can still have riches. So just for us to kind of think ideal state, it doesn't work like that. So fortune can go away from a person or reach him indiscriminately. It is clear from this teaching how a person should not be attached to the idea of misfortune or fortune. So misfortune can occur in an unbiased fashion. In misfortune can occur to, like for instance, somebody can develop a cancer if they are rich, very pious, they are doing all good deeds, yet they may have a terrible ill health. As much as somebody else who is smoking, chain smoking, drinking loads of alcohol, even they may develop, but somebody who is very well kept may also develop. It doesn't really kind of make any difference, fortune or misfortune. Similarly, let's relate it to the vices, the bad, the compulsive habits like alcohol, pathological gambling. They can happen to anybody as well. They can happen to a person who has come from a very rich, well-to-do background, well-principled background, as much as to anything else. In modern practice, mental health practice, we recognize illness as an illness, as in any of these things are considered as an illness. So when somebody develops a dependence, we treat it like an illness. When somebody develops depression, we treat it as an illness. We don't say it is because of your misdeeds that you have developed a depression and so on. We remove that, we separate those two things. So it's very important in that context that it's not about the person, it is about the vice, the bad behavior. Bad behavior can just happen to anybody if they have the inborn traits, the personality, the temperament. Similarly, illnesses. So a parallel that can be drawn from this is that a mental health problem or a vice like alcohol should be considered as a disease. In treatment, it is particularly important not to blame the person to be the reason for the state they are in. Because if it is done, or we are not gaining much. Instead, we need to utilize positive encouragement to help them to get out of the messy situation by focusing on it as an illness instead of blaming the individual. It's a very tricky situation. It may be said it's easy said than done, but that's exactly what we practice. We make sure that the individual is not blamed for the situation that they are in. It is the illness. So that is what has to be targeted, and it is indiscriminate. It can happen to anybody. So that's the lesson I can draw from this Sukhanashopadesha. Then I'll finish this with a touch of social psychology to the case of the gambler. And for this, remember the first day's slide, branches of psychology. Psychology can be social psychology, behavioral, health, occupational, forensic, clinical, all right? So developmental psychology, different branches. Social psychology is nothing but how does the society, what's the mindset of the society? Mindset of the society is known through its rules, laws that it places upon itself. Okay, so that's what we can say as social psychology. So in Arthashastra, there is something called as Janapada Nivesha. In that, there is a mention of Grihastha Dharma. And see, the gambler was neglecting his family, right? And he was depleting their resources. So there must be some law. If the society was to have some laws or some rules, then at least the family is protected to some extent. So not exactly the same, but we'll see something similar. Putradharam apratividhaya pravrajataha purvaha sahasadandaha striyam cha pravrajayataha luptavyavaha pravrajet aprachya dharmasthan anyatha niyamyeta. So the meaning of this is not entirely applicable to the gambler's situation, but you'll see where I'm trying to get at, some parallels. So what is that? The meaning of this is as follows. Any householder, see, Grihastha Dharma is very valued in our society. It has been valued for time immemorial. It is the responsibility of the householder to raise the family, look after everybody's needs, earn resources, and also spare time for societal welfare. So Grihastha has a huge responsibility to play, and we have lost it in modern times. We need to bring it back. Particularly Hindu society is now in this state because we have not been adhering to Grihastha responsibilities. That can be a different topic on its own. A training, how do we train householders? That should become a topic on its own in future. And so any householder, Grihastha, who neglects his responsibilities towards his wife and children and leaves home without providing the required resources for a comfortable living will be punished with a fine, Prathama Sahasa Danda. So there's a fine imposed because he chose not to take care of their needs. Okay. It's interesting, isn't it? We think that they were not having some structure in the past, but there was very much a structure. So this is applicable to a householder who forces his wife into asceticism. Let's say, for instance, he says, you take sannyas, I'll get married to somebody else. If he does something like that, also he will be fined. More interestingly, he says, I don't want to engage in reproductive effort anymore. I don't want to have children, but the wife wants children, and he's still of the reproductive age. The elders in the society would still say to him, sorry, as long as you have the reproductive capability, you're still supposed to stay in that marriage and fulfill your responsibilities. Now that's very interesting for me, because this is what is possibly possibly worked well as per the context that our ancients have been living in, and they have developed a structure for themselves. Mind you, sometimes we try and compare modern times with ancient times for everything, I would say that these are actually not so bad given those times. So I'll again stop here in case anybody wishes to say anything, comment on anything, or raise any questions before we move on to the next topic. Rajeshwar, please go ahead. Rajeshwar Garu, you can unmute.
Yeah, good morning, Andy. Thank you. Thank you so much for the information. I have a question on the Lakshmi Chanchalya. As per the Sukhasnopadesha, okay. Somehow I do not accept the Chanchalyam. For example, a person who did his graduation from IIT, started his industry, he's making millions of dollars selling his company to company in US. It's not Chanchal. He's starting another industry. He's still making money. He's starting another industry. There is no Chanchalyam. He keeps on progressing. Lakshmi is not going to withdraw from his efforts. It all depends on our efforts. Not the moment we compromise in our efforts, yes, we lose. That's not Lakshmi Chanchalyam, right? If that is the case, nobody will go for education. People think, oh, Lakshmi will come to me if she wants to come to me. How do we justify this?
We don't need to agree or disagree on it because that is a fact. The point there is not about an individual's effort. This is more related to what, let us assume, what would you say about destiny or karma? Would karma stop itself from having a plane crash of a renowned scientist just because he's a renowned scientist? Will it?
No. It's okay.
No, will it?
No, it's not right.
Exactly.
Plane crash
So
there is a reason for plane crash.
No. That's
plane
the same
crash
thing.
is
So
not happening.
Reason. Yeah. So Lakshmiya Chanchalyam is no reason. There's no reason. It doesn't really even have emotion. Just like how karma is, it is an extension, you can say.
Karma also, there is a reason for everything. It's not happening because every day millions of flights people travel. And not that all the flights are crashing. No. There is a reason for it. If a technician, if a quality control person did not do his job well, is bribed, definitely it leads to that failure. Otherwise, nobody will travel by the flight. Millions of airports that busy, and as we keep progressing, you see airport in Warangal, you see airport in every district in India. It's going to happen. People will not stop traveling. Yes, there will be a crash. It is because there was a defect in Russian flights, and most of the times in India, people buy the abandoned flights. Cheap price. They try to sell cheap and make money.
We are diverting.
You can intervene. Yeah.
Shall I interfere here?
Yeah.
Please. See, take the example of Ambani's. Mukesh Ambani and Anil Ambani. What is the status of Anil Ambani now? What is the status of Mukesh? One second. See, the thing is, the Lakshmi Chanchalyam is exhibited there. If Mukesh Ambani and Anil Ambani comes to the same family, same birth, from the same Dhirubhai Ambani, and both should be same. If Lakshmi is not Chanchalyam, both should be in same position. Why Mukesh Ambani is flourishing like anything and Anil Ambani is going down?
Sir, you give the right example.
That is one point. Please understand.
Yeah, please.
That is one point. Second point is, in this Janma, because of previous Janma, he must have got benefit, and continuously this Janma, you are talking about only one Janma. And this Lakshmi Chanchalyam is not depending on one Janma. Maybe next Janma he may become a Papa. We don't know because of his karmas, what he is doing in his business. So if you understand the karma siddhanta, and if you think of over a period of janmas, this Lakshmi Chanchalyam is visible. It's not that one stage. And one more thing, and many people are very big millionaires have become addicted to vices and become papas. There are so many stories. So why that person should become addicted and become papa? because of Lakshmi's that's the nature of Lakshmi's Chanchalyam. Where there is dharma, there Lakshmi will stay. Where there is no dharma, Lakshmi will go away. It will
Okay.
not stay there. So when once dharma, when a person crosses dharma line, the Lakshmi takes the chance of moving out of that. That Chanchalyam Lakshmi is there for Lakshmi. That is the idea of that. You have to understand the quality of Lakshmi there. It's not that one person is well-to-do in one is life. It's not like that.
I got.
Thank you,
I got
Prabhakar
your
Garu.
point.
Just a minute, Rajeshwar Garu. I think, see, it's not, the concept is not to be seen as logical inference here. I think what you're looking at is, what you were trying to say is that when somebody is well prepared in his life through education, through discipline, surely they will not have trouble with Lakshmi, is what you were saying, which is understandable what you're saying. But I think you need to look beyond it. That is not what we are trying to infer here through Lakshmiyaha Chanchalyam. Perhaps you can read about it. As I said, it is an opportunity for you to get hold of Sukhanashopadesha book and read through it. It is a wonderful book, and Lakshmiyaha Chanchalyam is an excellent concept. It resonates with me. As I said, I have given the example of how it does not, vices don't pick just because somebody has been born in a slum, or it doesn't leave a person aside just because they have been born in riches. We know of several situations. So that's not the point here. I think, yeah, I'll leave it to you to do a further reading about it, and then we can talk again about it. Yes,
Can I speak, sir? Finally,
yes.
can I speak?
Yes,
Yes,
okay.
sure. Thank you. So Ambani's family is a
No,
right
we'll not
example.
go there. We'll not go there. I think what's happening is, when I mentioned about aeroplane example as well, I think we got sidetracked completely.
Okay,
Aeroplane
fine, then I'll leave
example,
it.
aeroplane example was mentioned as, again, the same thing as death does not pick who it will take. Vice also does not pick who it will take at that point of time. We can give hundreds of reasons why something has happened. That's not the issue here. We can give hundreds of reasons why somebody has picked up vices. We can say they were stressed at work and they started drinking, then he had bad friends, and then bad friends influenced him, then he had a breakup of marriage. That is different. I think that's not the point we were referring to here. Okay, Rajgopalan Mahodaya, please go ahead.
Srinivasa?
Yeah, Srinivasa Mahodaya.
Wonderful discussion, wonderful presentation, Dr. Murthy. Really nice presentation. Basically, this Chanchalam of Lakshmi is a philosophical word. It is not actually to be taken in a literal sense. Chanchala in a normal sense is different. And for example, a boy is there. He is Chanchala. But the Chanchala meaning is different than the Lakshmi Chanchalam. Chanchalam here means it is a fluctuating, fleeting, or not stable and ever changing. I will put it as an attribute. Because basically being a research R&D scientist, I will put it as an attribute. So Chanchalam is an adjective, and this adjective takes care of the attribute called as Lakshmi. So here, as our Prabhakar Rao Garu said, and another gentleman said, both are equally correct. I am not saying that they're wrong, but one thing what we say that as far as the Chanchala, Lakshmi Chanchalam, generally the physics law says from the higher potential to lower potential, always the transmission takes place or the movement takes place. That is what the general law of motion or general law of physics or anything. But here what happens, that from the higher potential to lower potential means that from the a person remains changes actually. Here not the potential points doesn't change. The person becomes rich to pauper, whereas the attribute remains the same. What as other person was telling about one rich man becoming IITN, becoming richer and richer, and another person. Yes, number one parameter, Lakshmi stays with only those who are really making lot of effort to earn herself. Just like in the animal kingdom, yeah, I'll put it because all are matured enough here to understand. That is why I say in a matured way. The lioness doesn't want to breed with that animal which is not having the capability to win the other lions. So in the same way, Lakshmi doesn't want to stay with those timid persons or less hardworking or a what you call a simple living person like that. She wants to be there with only with a person who is dynamic, means who is puts effort, and she likes it. So the philosophically we have to take it, and your approach of explaining this one was not in a literal sense, but in a philosophical way, especially with respect to psychological aspects, parameters. So the individual has to think that when I am dropping in my efficiency or proficiency from higher plane to the lower plane, because of any of these what you call virtues or non-virtues. Okay, even Yudhishthira having the virtuous thing has become a non-virtue for him in long run. Similarly, for a drunkard, drinking is a wrong thing. So the Lakshmi oscillates from the higher plane to the lower plane in such oscillating condition. That is why it is called a chanchala. Here we should take it as a fluctuating, fleeting. I will put it as a more as a fleeting word. And it is unstable and ever changing. It is a dynamic system. Lakshmi is unlike it is a dynamic, whereas Saraswati is called as a static, whereas she will stay with you and she'll at one place she breeds and grows further. Whereas she moves from one point A to point B to C, she is a chanchalam that is moves around that one. And in the same way, the Parvati or you can say Kali or something, she is a spontaneous activity. One is stable, another one is unstable, another one is the metastable stage. This is how I would like to explain in the conceive this idea in a different way.
Thank you very much. I think you have crystallized it very well. I hope I think you have done a much better job than me, and hopefully Rajeshwarji would have had a little more of clarity on this philosophical concept. You are very rightly put. It needs to be seen from a philosophical viewpoint. Very much Rajeshwar Mahadaya's concern was also very valid, and you have nicely summarized those two. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I'll talk to you later separately. Thank you.
Yeah. Vedadhyayi. Vedadhyayi, please unmute yourself.
Hari Om.
Hari Om. Yes, please.
Hari Om. Shriyava Mahadaya.
Shruyate Mahadaya, please go ahead.
अस्तु लक्ष्मी चाञ्चल्य विषये चर्चा जायमाना अस्ति तत्र किञ्चित् अहं निवेदयितुम् इच्छामि
निश्चयेन महोदय
लक्ष्म्याः नामसु प्रथमं नाम प्रकृत्यै नमः भवति द्वितीयं नाम भवति विकृत्यै नमः तस्मिन् पश्यामः प्रकृतिः नाम वयं लक्ष्मीः इत्युक्तौ केवलं धनमपि द्रव्यरूपं तावन्मा
महोदय भवतः लिंक समीचीनं नास्ति सम्यक् न श्रूयते इदानीम् अनन्तरं यदि प्रायः अन्ते किञ्चित् समयं पुनः दास्यामि महोदय तदा एकवारं पुनः चर्चां कुर्मः धन्यवादः केवी राव महोदय प्लीज गो अहेड अनम्यूट
लक्ष्मी
केवी राव प्लीज अनम्यूट योरसेल्फ
अस्तु एवं कालानुसारेण सर्वे पदार्थाः विकारम् आप्नुवन्ति अस्माकं भुक्तम् अन्नमपि उदरे परिणमते तदा एकरूपं न तिष्ठति एवं परिणामशालित्वं यदस्ति प्रकृतेः तम् अंशम् अङ्गीकृत्य लक्ष्म्याः चाञ्चल्यमिति यतोहि लक्ष्मीः नाम प्रकृति लक्ष्मीः नाम महाविष्णोः पत्नी तस्याः एकं रूपं सः दैविकः भागः लौकिकः भागः लक्ष्मीः नाम द्रव्यं येन मनुष्यः लक्ष्मीवान् इति प्रसिद्धो भवति किञ्च तत्रापि लक्ष्मीः इत्यस्य व्याख्यानावसरे महर्षिः यास्कः निरुक्ते क्षणाद्वा लाञ्छनाद्वा बहु उत्तमरीत्या तस्य व्याख्यानं करोति अतः तेन रूपेण पश्यामश्चेत् लक्ष्म्याः चाञ्चल्यम् अनिवार्यमेव ततश्च तस्याः यत् चाञ्चल्यमस्ति सः एव तत्र गुणः भवति अतः यथा शरीरे बाल्यं सर्वदा एकरूपं न भवति यौवनम् एकरूपं न भवति निरन्तरं परिवर्तनमेव संसारस्य नियमः संसार प्रकृतिः एव लक्ष्मीः एवं मम निवेदनम् अस्तु धन्यवादः
बहु उत्तमं महोदय
नमस्कारः महोदय
अनेके धन्यवादाः for those who couldn't understand just it's an important message not to take Lakshmi literally as the goddess alone, but it is the Prakriti, it is the manifest form and material form, Dravya. And just like how food in stomach gets digested, changes form and all that, similarly, as we don't stay young always, we move from childhood to adulthood and old age and so on. There is always transformation and there is always kind of fluctuate in that sense, the variation, fluctuation, whatever be the word. And I think looks like Prabhakar Mahodaya, Lakshmiya Chanchalyam itself should be a topic of discussion another time where we seem to have wonderful concepts coming through and we need to understand it more, how applicable it is in our in understanding our own modern lives. So that is how it should be understood, is what Mahodaya was trying to explain. Okay, perfect. Thank you. Okay, very quick question, quick things from KV Rao and then T. Gargi Urmila, and after that I will go on to my next. Oh, we are almost done with time. Okay, but anyway, yeah, let's do KV Rao Mahodaya. Please go ahead, unmute yourself. So if you are unable to, I'll go to T. Gargi Urmila first and then come back to you, Mahodaya. Okay.
Namaste ji. This is something which you really mentioned about the grahastha way of life in that punishment which you have mentioned. Suddenly the thought came about the Gautama Buddha. He just, the story of his life is like he left his wife in the middle of the night but still he has been, went to the beyond meditative state, and then the people worship as there are followers of Gautama Buddhism, all that. So how to take or consider this punishment is not applicable for everybody who is born, or is it there is any exception? Because we see the stories, I mean, just one story of Buddha, but there may be other ways of other people's story also, but which I cannot recollect. But right now, the kind of punishment or which is not fulfilling his grihastha duties will not be applied to such a self-realized person. So this is what I wanted to ask you.
Yeah, obvious. Thanks. It's a good, very important question. I myself would, I'm fond of Buddha, but I definitely believe that he did not tick the box when it came to Grihastha Dharma. it surely faltered there. But second point is, we are talking about Arthashastra and the times then. Arthashastra came much later than Buddha's life. But I won't be surprised if during Buddha's time as well, there would have been some smritis which have detailed how Grihastha should function and what are the responsibilities and all that. I don't know. The honest answer is I don't know. But I think common sense logic would say that, especially when we have adhered to the concept of ashrama dharma, brahmacharya, grihastha, vanaprastha, it was there for a very, very long time. So I would not be surprised if grihastha concept was not known to Buddha or people around him at the time. I'm sure they all knew very well that grihastha phase had to be fulfilled, and only then to when you go to vanaprastha, you can let go of your responsibilities and move on. I don't know honestly what went through Buddha's mind or circumstances that ultimately led him to do so. But you are very well. Um, you're right in what you said. Yes, that's all I can say. Yes, I can see Rajagopal ji. Very quickly, please, if you want to mention what you need to say.
One of my Bhagini, I don't remember the name, possibly Sumitra ji or somebody. She referred about the Gautama Buddha. After that, also in the present century, 19th century or 20th, we can say another greatest person everybody knows by Ramanujacharya, who is my Paramaguru. I hail from the same family, genealogy. He also has to leave his wife at a very young age because she was attached more to the Laukikam than the Bautikam. Okay. So at that time, the question again arose. Yamunacharya and others, they insisted, if I go a little bit on the Vaishnavism, because in which I preach and teach and also. So Vaishnavism, what it says that you have to be a Grahastha first. Complete the job of a Grahastha, then understand the intricacies and the what you call the small problems, then only you can become a sannyasi. That is what the Vaishnavism talks about it. But Ramanujacharya could not perform the complete procedure, and he could not beget even the child also, because he was totally dedicated. So the his teachers, Yamunacharya and others teaches them. So Buddha is one side, another side Ramanujacharya is also one of the example. But the answer, as you have said it is nothing but once a person renunciates and thinks that the complete world is his family, at that time, that grahastham, what he thinks is the sarvalokam. Sarvalokam as lokha avimanam. That is lokha, when he sees things as a family, at that time, that dharma is taken care of, and under that rule, he gets the exception and gets nullified. This is what the explanation was given and discussion in one of the Desikacharya's Upanyasa.
But you know that we give too many justifications. We justify our positions. So I think we let us call spade a spade. Buddha left Grihastha Dharma. Our beloved current Prime Minister also has left Grihastha Dharma. If we are to be, but he is doing a fantastic job. Now, so the point then is, there may be some unfortunate exceptions. I don't know. And we are not in a position to judge people. But your point about wasn't there that punishment, I'm sure there would have been some sort. Maybe rich people escape, influential people escape, just like modern times. I don't know. Okay, KV Rao, please, Mahodaya, please, if you are able to unmute, do so. Yeah, okay.
I am trying, but I don't know whether you are able to.
Now you are successful. Please go ahead.
Yeah, I am glad this. The Chanchalamhi, if you are referring about this one, the Bhagavad Gita chapter 634 is very clear about it. It relates to the mind. And as normally, somehow I don't relate to the money part. Lakshmi also, various Lakshmis are there. If someone is even at 70s, very healthy, he is also a rich person, like that. So Lakshmi should not be connected only to money at all. Because money, as somebody was mentioning very rightly, we have to be very scientifically also, we should be able to prove. Whoever works hard, very hard at all times, will naturally will have money, and he will not have any dearth of for living and eating and food and shelter. Absolutely, there won't be any problem of any kind, whether educated or uneducated also. So I feel that Lakshmi should not be connected only to money alone. Many other aspects are there. Education also Lakshmi, and other things are also many. Health also is Lakshmi. Many other things. Bravery also is there, and all these things are Lakshmi.
Mahodaya, thank you for that. But money was not mentioned anywhere. I don't know where that came.
No, somebody was mentioning about Ambani and all that. That's the reason I was.
As an examples, see, that's the problem. What tends to happen is we keep going from one to the other.
Yeah.
And, if you look at, I use the word prosperity or misfortune.
Yes.
So it could be anything. It could be health. It could be wealth. It could be any, family relations. It could be a lot of things. It is all, okay.
That is why Ashta Lakshmi is there. Whereas, Ashta Saraswati we don't call.
Ashta Lakshmi is there. Ashta Lakshmi is there.
Ashta Parvati we don't call. We call Ashta Lakshmi means Dhana, Dhanya, Aishwarya, means everything is included. What you said is very much correct. The Aishwaryam means everything is covered.
Yeah. Very nice. Yeah. Thanks for giving me opportunity.
Give me just 10 minutes. I'll present a little bit, at least in preparation for next session. And then we can close after that. Okay. Is that okay? Do we have 10 minutes, Babu Mahodaya? Or Prabhakar Mahodaya? Can I
Yes. Yeah. You can go ahead.
So the next topic is different, but I have already touched upon it on day one. I mentioned that in modern psychology, we use three components when we refer to mental health. So biological, which is that I'm a biological machine. My body is made of chemicals and electric impulses, and if I'm treating something, I'm actually giving medicines. Why am I giving medicines? Tablets, because they're correcting the imbalance in the neurochemical imbalance. If I'm talking purely about psychiatry here, it could relate to anything else too. So biological, human is a biological machine. Social is social circumstances around. I have a job and then I lost a job. I have a family. I've lost somebody in the family. Political circumstances around me, and so on and so forth. Those are all social circumstances. Psychological is my own temperament that I grow up with. I'm born with it. Temperament is there inborn, and I grow with it. And there are several other psychological states of mind that I develop over a period of time. That shapes the way I cope with stress. For instance, I cope with situations, and so on. So it's an interaction of all these three that leads to an improvement in one's mental health, if we are to use them as treatment strategies. But I proposed that we need to add a spiritual component as well when it comes to treatment aspect, so that we can bring in holistic wellness. And for this, what I would like to do is I want to bring in some lessons here and there. Mind you, I haven't read extensively, but the little bit I have read, I'm able to kind of include some lessons, mostly from Bhagavad Gita. And I will use a definite incident from Ramayana to make a case for what I call as a dynamic dharmic algorithm that I will be talking about in the next session. And I will also use some knowledge from Upanishads. Atma Vidya is something which is very close to my heart. In fact, Sanatana Dharma is Atma Vidya according to me. And if we are to kind of understand what Atma Vidya is nothing but the knowledge of me being the Brahman, or me being the Atman, and my own search for it. In Vivek Chudamani, Pathantu Shastrani Yajantu Devan Kurvantu Karmani Bhajantu Devataha Atmaikya Bodhena Vina api Muktihi Na Siddhyati Brahma Shatantarepi. No matter what you do, you may do a lot of yajnas, you may do a lot of good karma, you may do a lot of bhajan, sankirtan kind of thing. You may do all these things, but if you do not have the understanding that you are the Atman, you don't really go anywhere, is what Adi Shankara says. However, until a man wakes to knowledge of his identity with the Atman, liberation can never be obtained, not even at the end of many hundreds of Brahma's years. So, very strong statement. Basically, he's saying that for all of us, especially practicing Sanatana Dharma, the very essence has to be close to our heart, which is that I am the Atman, and we need to make efforts to realize it. And in the process, I will see how this comes across. Maybe it looks like a slight deviation, but please help me in your feedback if that seems like, but I'll present it anyway. I'm going to take help from Ishwar Krishna's Sankhya Karika in bringing in concepts of Prakriti, Purusha, and Vikriti. The reason being, Sankhya Karika or Sankhya Darshana is very much focused on this knowledge aspect. Knowledge is their primary goal. Through knowledge, you reach moksha, is what they basically propose. What knowledge are we talking about? He is interested in, of course, Kapila Maharshi was the one who has proposed it, and Ishwara Krishna has written this, compiled it as Sankhya Karika. So what knowledge are we looking for? The knowledge that what is Atma and what is not Atma is the knowledge that we need to first understand and also keep reminding ourselves throughout our lives. And that is the formula. And that, I would say, is a good formula, because if you want to follow basically only Jnana Yoga, this method alone, then there should be some constant remembrance of some sort that you are the Atman. Otherwise, it's so easy to get distracted. Somebody who resorts to Bhakti Yoga can do it so easily because they are constantly in chintana of that law, Krishna or Rama or whoever their Ishta Devata is, and they're constantly doing bhajan, sankirtan, whatever they are, and constantly in touch with that divine, and they can ultimately reach, attain moksha too. But here, because we are interested in the topic of psychological wellness or holistic wellness, knowledge component is a critical part too, because I want to include spirituality in holistic wellness. As I said, there are two things that we need to know here. One is that I am the Atman, I am that unmanifest intelligence, all pervasive. I am there in everything. I am in me, I am in K.V. Rao Garu, I am in Rajeshwar Garu, I am in everyone. I am the same one in all of you. That is the knowledge that I have. I am there in all of you. You are all there in me. And that is the Samadrishti, which is Samadarshana. I see myself in all of you means what? I love you all the same as I love myself. That's exactly what it means. That's a beautiful lesson already we have. If only I bring in the concept of universal love through this concept of Atma, my whole perspective on life, society, family, all the ills that are happening, which I think people are against me, all those things start disappearing away. It makes my heart a lot more lighter. I can start healing myself already. So this is the power it has, if only we have the understanding of the right concept. But Maya is very powerful. Maya keeps us distracted. It keeps us bringing in doubts in our minds. That can't be the case. Do you think really Atma is there? No, there's nothing called as Atma. It is all crap. People in talk about it just to kind of feel good about it. They talk about God because if there is a concept of God, at least they know that they have to fear for something and they'll be falling in line, so on. So Maya could be having its own way of distracting you, but you need to kind of continue to pay attention to it. And what is not Atma is everything else which is built, which is part of the building material. So the three gunas, sattva, rajas, tamo gunas, they are the inherent components of the jada padartha, the unintelligent, unmanifest again. So it's described in Sankhya Karikas as unmanifest as well. So Prakriti is unmanifest. Purusha, which is the Atman, is also unmanifest. The only difference is that this Prakriti, which is unmanifest, is an unintelligent, material forming kind of substance. Whereas the Atma is all pervasive, intelligent, not a material forming substance. It is basically a nothing. That is the difference. So this is something which we need to know. And what does Prakriti do? Prakriti then brings in Vikriti. It brings in new things to be formed. So it says Mahat is built after that. Then Ahankara comes in. The ego means that I am separate. Everything has an identity. And then various things like Pancha Bhutas and Panchatanmatras, all those things come in afterwards. So those details we don't need much, but I will still show you the slide of it later. And how do these Prakriti and Purusha travel together? An interesting fable is given in Sankhya Karika, Andha Pangu. So one is blind, another is lame. So the lame person cannot walk, but he can see. And the blind person obviously can walk, can't see. So let us say they both are lost in a forest and they both need to go back to the village. So what they do is they collaborate. They collaborate in such a way that the lame person sits on the shoulders of the blind person and he directs him which way to go. In a way, they both are working together until they reach the destination, the village. And once they reach the village, they go their separate ways. They don't bother with each other anymore. So this is exactly what Prakriti and Purusha do. Purusha basically is the Atman, and it is lost in the forest. Just like us, we have lost awareness that I am the Atman, and I'm wandering in this life thinking everything to be real. Everything else I'm identifying myself with, but the Atman. So what Atma is trying to do is it wants to go back to that Kaivalya, the initial state. And it is taking the help of Prakriti, how through my Indriyas, I want to read books which talk about it. I want to hear pravachans which talk about it. And I want to use my legs to reach a place where I can do such sadhana. That is all part of Prakriti, isn't it? So we can take help of it in reaching that destiny. Once we reach that destiny, the Purusha says, bye-bye, I'm away, and Prakriti says, bye-bye, and it goes away. So this is exactly how it is described in our search forward. A quick illustration of how creation is mentioned as per Sankhya Karikas. So Purusha is here mentioned separately. It has nothing to do with the creative force. Apart from saying, of course, the Chaitanya is there in everything, but nothing to do in the sense it doesn't create anything. Whereas Prakriti creates. From Prakriti, Mahat comes Ahankara, then the 5 senses, 5 action karmendriyas, 5 tanmatras from which the 5 bhutas, the water, air, all those things come, and the manas. So this is something just for an illustration, not that you need to pay too much attention or worry too much about it. The reason I'm mentioning it is only for sake of completion. Otherwise, in Atma Vidya, our journey is always to know that I am the Purusha. I want to continue to stay in this state, but I am aware of all these things and that they are not me. None of these is me, but I'm using those only to understand myself better and to reach liberation or moksha. I'll finish with a couple of slides. So I will use the spiritual components. Actually, I do this in a separate webinar called Bring Out the Best in You, the Sanatana Dharma Way. But some of the important ones which will be helpful are the concepts of Shashvatam or Nirbhayam, Nishkama Karma, Sthita Prajnata, Nishchaya Buddhi, Samadrishti, I already mentioned about it, Kshama, Karma Siddhanta, Punarjanma, Satya. So there is a separate module called Discover Your Inner Potential based on Satya itself. Satsanga, the concept of Satsanga, Trikarana Shuddhi. So all these have definite important applications in our own holistic wellness. And in normal life, where can we apply these principles? But definitely in individual counseling, definitely in family therapy. As I mentioned, in couple counseling, we need to inculcate 2 components. One, premarital counseling. Before our Hindu youngsters get married, we need to inculcate in them the understanding about what the marriage is about and what is Grihastha Dharma all about. If only we do that, I think marriages will be stronger, less divorces, and they will be more meaningful and they will be contributing positively to the society, dharmic society. Bereavement counseling, definitely there is a role for Atma Vidya there as well, particularly people who don't understand what happens after death, especially the loved ones, the rest of the family are grieving. We can actually provide, develop modules for counseling there as well. These, I must say, are in pipeline. I'm trying to work on it and develop, particularly the couple counseling, premarital counseling, and the bereavement counseling. Anxiety management, personality development, leadership, decision making, communication skills, you can actually apply in any of these things. As I mentioned here, Atma Vidya and Garuda Purana can be used to help those grieving for the demise of their loved ones through bereavement counseling. Anxiety management can be helped through Atma Vidya and Ashtanga Yoga. Premarital and marriage counseling through Grihastha Dharma. I will stop here for today and take any questions or any comments if people would wish to share.
Okay.
Before closing, I just wanted to caution all the people, otherwise people will leave. Please participate in next Saturday again. Every Saturday, whether I remind or not, please attend this webinars, please. Saturday and Sunday.
Okay, any questions? Rajesh?
Yeah, Rajesh Sharma, please go ahead.
సార్ అంటే ఇప్పుడు మీరు గరుడ పురాణం అని చెప్పారు కదా, సో విచ్ చాప్టర్ పర్టికులర్లీ యూఆర్ టార్గెటింగ్ ఆన్? బికాస్ గరుడ పురాణం has got 3 main divisions. Which division and which chapter really helps as per your statement?
So I'm more interested in the 10 days of post death. How, for instance, what happens to the past person, how their body develops, and where do they travel to, the Pitraloka and whatever is described. Those are the crucial 10 days where I believe that the family who is grieving, they're anyway reading Garuda Purana, for instance. Some of the details are quite gory. very kind of gruesome. That's not what we are talking about here. But as I said, where it relates to the transmigration of Atma, the concept of transmigration of Atma, giving them the solace that Atma is actually traveling to a world which is welcoming them. Those things need to be inculcated, brought back into the common knowledge, because possibly olden days it was quite easy to relate to these kind of things. But I think it needs a little bit of structure, because a lot of it is passed off as a myth and it's not possibly paid attention to. Neither are they described by the Brahmana who actually conducts those rituals at the time. The Smashana Vatika is not really a place where there is much of learning happening there either. I think somewhere I believe that the grieving process can be helped, especially if we condense this knowledge, especially of the transmigration of the soul. That is where I'm focusing on, and hopefully we can develop the right kind of structure to it.
Yeah, but I agree with you. The Brahmanas are not doing the right job in symmetry. I agree totally with you. That is unfortunately in Telangana and Andhra. But if you go to Tamil Nadu, the priest will make you to chant this sloka, explain you what is meaning behind that, why is doing that and all. Yeah, we have to promote the quality of priest services in Telangana and Andhra. I've seen this. Recently, I visited, I did Kashi Yatra. Everywhere people are after money, but not after the importance of the rituals. The morals in the priests are going down day by day. That's very unfortunate thing.
Again, we need to take a collective responsibility. I take it this way that if we become more educated, more aware of Shastra Jnana, more respectful of those who are experts in this area, then gradually, hopefully, we can develop better synchronicity in all these aspects. I actually thought of inviting one of the Brahmanas who conducts these things to address a group in here in Visakhapatnam. It never materialized, but surely we need to do those things, because we have so many kind of superstitions as well. We don't want to talk about death. We don't want to the very word used, ashuchi, for instance, it doesn't help, unfortunately. We need to have better vocabulary as well. Make simplify some vocabulary, or change the things, because with time we can change certain things. We don't need to stick to the same words forever. If they actually have terrible meaning, only leading to more superstition nowadays, we might as well get rid of such words and recoin some other words. So this only can happen if we are true researchers. I think our ancients were researchers. That's why we had so many kind of modifications for various things. But we stopped modifying. We're just blindly following what was left, and that doesn't help.
Yeah, that's correct. Yes, rightly said. Yeah.
Here I would like to interfere and share my thoughts.
Yeah.
The first thing what you told was that 10 days is not the movement of the Atma. First thing. The 10 days that will be there with us only. That's what. And second thing, it related with Rajeshwar also, that the Purohits ignore, not telling the things and other things. It's a question of the interest of the Yajamani also. In my case, when my father expired, I asked those Pandit, what you are doing. He has explained very well. That's why I could get the knowledge. What is happening? This is not the 10 days is not the time Atma moves. Atma 10 days stays with you only in your house. It's around you only. It's 12 days. On 12th day only it moves, and the whole 1 year it travels. So that is the point you should have mentioned, Srinivasa Garu. So movement is 1 year. That's why we do masikas. 16 masikas we do. And the 16 masikas, 16 we believe in Garuda Purana. As per Guru Purana, we believe that there are 16 places where the Atma stays that night. So that's how we do 16 Masikas, and it is considered as every month is a day in that period. But once it reaches the Yamaloka, that becomes 1 year is equal to 1 day. So that's how we do Abdikam after 1 year. That's how the Garuda Purana says the first part of that. So if you have, what is the interest you have got? In the interest of movement of the Atma, you have to read first part of it. And if you are interested in movement of the Phalitas, what is the Phalita you get for your karmas? Probably second part. That's how the Garuda Purana is there, I understand. I read long back. I don't remember correctly which is second part, which is third part. And that's what regarding the Atma's movement.
In fact, those who have watched the movie Balagam movie is an excellent movie in that sense. The last scene is extremely cathartic. It brings the entire family together. The grieving process is helped through narration, through songs. And the song deliberately, it's actually looks like native Telangana kind of tradition, possibly. The song deliberately mentions each and every child's name and how they were affectionately treated by the father who has died. And they all melt, their emotions melt, their differences melt, they become one. I think that's fantastic. That is what I'm looking at. We need to bring in societal kind of societally relevant grieving processes wherever we can actually do it. Whatever we remnants are left, we need to revive them.
Yeah, the Suchi part of it is also observing 12 days Maila for the person, the son and other Sambandhikas, that Gnatis. That is because the Atma is staying with them. That's why they observe that 12 days period as a remembrance of that Atma. That is very important part of that Maila. 12 days Maila for the person who is doing karma.
And I must share this. My own personal observation when my father passed away, and when I was doing the 10 days. On day one, you actually kind of put those seeds. I forgot what they were, but molakalu antanga seeds. And then by day 10, they are all growing. And it just is so beautiful to see. So beautiful to see. It's almost like saying by the end of 10 days, it's been liberated or something like that. There's a nice psychological feel to it. That is cathartic, for instance. I'm more interested in all these things, right? So when I see all this, and then the whole idea of the crow coming to eat, there's a personal touch, personal connect. Whenever the crow comes to eat, when we went to Pittapuram last year for our mother's thing, and then the crow came, took it away, and went. It's nice. So it's like, okay, my mother is there, or whatever, in whatever way.
No, when you tell this crow one, I just tell my personal example. When my mother expired, on the top of that building, everybody was supposed to keep that person there. After this, the karma is done. That work is done. So we went and put there our this thing, pindam there, bhojanam to the Atma. Then before that, some other person put there before that. And the crow is after that. One crow is after that. That crow, without touching that first one, came to mine, correct one, and took it. The other fellow is still waiting. So I got surprised how that fellow the crow left that food and came to this food.
But for you, most importantly, it's a personally such a nice feeling.
Yeah, nice feeling. Yeah, nice feeling for me that my mother has come and blessed me.
Absolutely, fantastic. Yeah. Okay, Rajagopalanji, please go ahead.
I will not take much time because already a lot of time is over. As you rightly say, that the present generation has to be explained all these fundamentals in their own dictum, their own words. That is what I also feel. So when I was in Australia, some of the foreigners, when they asked about one of these Hindu rituals and I think they were making little bit fun. Later I kept it, and when they came back, then I told them, but they are also scientists like me, only nuclear scientists. And so then I told him, do you believe in the metamorphosis dictums? Metamorphosis. He said, yes, I agree. Then I said, transformation of energy? Yes, he agreed. Then I said, what is the equation of transformation energy? Can you put it equation in the Schrodinger's equation? Then he said, okay, I'll put it. Then what are the constants there comes? In the same way, in our philosophy, Vedic philosophy, the Atma, when it separates out, it takes a metamorphosis. It takes a different form first. And then in that form, in the fluid form, as our Narendra Kapreji said, it is a fluidity. Lakshmi it is fluid. That is what I said, dynamic. Like only a solid cannot be dynamic, whereas a liquid can be, is the only thing which can be dynamic, liquid and gas.
Abstract form.
So this
In
transforms
abstract form.
into a fluid, and it takes a metamorphosis stage, and it stays, as our Prabhakara said, as a Vishnu Purana, it stays back for those 12 days, and it is staying at a height of 5 feet and some height they give, and it is waiting there and is observing all the things. Then by the transient, the Brahma Kala is different and our Manav calendar is different. Their 1 year, their our 300 days is equal to 1 day for them. The way we take 3 times food in the morning, afternoon, evening, in the same way we are having every 3 months once the food given to them. As for every 4 hours we feel hungry. Same thing happens to the Atma. We conceive all those, comprehend that one, and the metamorphic stage, when it takes to the next form, then the transient stage it moves, and finally it transforms the energy into different shape and size as per your karma and other thing. I said, what is the karma? I said, the karma, what you call is the physical parameters, what you call pressure, temperature, and the bulk chemical activity and all those things we'll call, whereas we call is the papa, punya, and different runas also. Pitru runa, deva runa, like that. So then why they could understand this one, they appreciated this one, and then they started learning it. I myself taught them for more than 15 days the complete Vishnu Purana, especially the 3rd chapter, last one, wherein how this one. The first few things, it goes with the different sins and what are the papas you have done, as per that one, what sins you have done and what are the punishments will be given. Whereas when you go to the 3rd one, where the Garuda asks how the things salvation it says like this, and 99.99% all go to the Pitruloka. Pitruloka is the place where your ancestors will be eagerly waiting and receive you. And at that time only, this Atma, when it reaches, and the crow concept, if we go with respect to all the literatures of our Vedic literatures, they say that the crow comes in the form of your Pitru, whosoever is there, and what it is, this is nothing but Shraddha. Shraddham is a Shraddha. With the Shraddha, when we do that one, and we take a oath, whosoever, mother, father, because generally we do for mother, father, and take the 3 Pitru, means 3 ahead of them. Matu Pitamaya, Pitu Pitamaya, like that. So when we take that oath, that whatever rina you have left over in this world, that I take the oath to complete that one and see that you get the salvation, moksha from the Pitrulok to the Daivalok.
Yeah.
This is how the meaning goes. Actually, basically, these are the things are told in our, especially Vaishishta, when we sit after the demise of this one, our Pandita, they sit from the 2nd day onwards with the Nalayari Durudam will be recited, and then they explain all these things to the Karta. Karta means the person who has done. So why I'm telling you, these are all having a very high sanctity. At the same time, scientific meaning also there. And it has not been explained properly for generations. So we think that it is all myth. It is not a myth, it is science. That is what I want to say.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Krishnan Mahodaya, please go ahead.
Yes, sir. Last week you had asked for a definition for Sanatana Dharma.
Okay.
I just want to quickly read what I have prepared on that.
Okay. Please go ahead.
If time permits. If you allow me, it's about 3 or 4 pages, but I will go through it quickly.
Oh my goodness, 3 or 4 pages is a lot. Okay.
Yeah.
Why don't you give an essence of it?
The essence of
or we will cover in the next one.
Yeah, I think we'll cover it in the next month, next class, because the essence I don't want to give. It's really very nicely I have prepared.
Okay, why don't you go ahead? We have the patience for it. I mean, we need to appreciate your sincerity in preparing it. Just go ahead, read it as quickly as you can.
Okay. Yo mohayati bhutani sneha pashanu bandhanaihi samrakshanaya sargasya tasmai mohatmane namaha. You see, it is a prayer for the God. So mohatmane is stated there. So love without expectation is actually true love. That is what Sanatana Dharma teaches us.
Okay.
Now I will skip the word by word meaning and go to the overall meaning.
Yeah.
I bow to that deluded soul or Atma who deludes all being with the ropes of affection and wealth for the protection of creation. In our Siddhanta, what the lineage says is to be pointed out instead of what I say. I mean, that has been the tradition. I should not say, I know this, I know that, but I should formulate and give what our ancestors have said. But however, since the question was asked, tell me a definition for Sanatana Dharma, I venture to make the following statement. Sanatana Dharma is actually two words. One is Sanatana, another is Dharma. Sanatana is eternal. It has got no beginning and no end. Dharma comes from the root word dhar, dhr, meaning to uphold or sustain. So that which uphold or sustains the universe is dharma. Therefore, Sanatana Dharma are principles of the universe, I would put. The ancient sages noticed a congruence between the principles of the universe and the innate nature of humans, in that the innate nature of human derives from a recursive universe within, just as vast, just as unknowable as the universe, and yet somehow correlated. And they created a map or model of the universe within, consistent with their view of the universe as comprised of matter and energy. Now, Vyutpatti or Lakshanam is derived from the root word Laksh. That means to see or observe. Now, I take that any Lakshanam I talk about Sanatana Dharma must show me something or make me observe. So, I coin a Lakshmanam for Sanatana Dharma in the following fashion. To uphold or sustain the principles of the universe, within bracket I put learned through a guru eternally. It's always there. There's no beginning or end to it. But you have to uphold or sustain the principles of the universe. Since there is a congruence between the principles of universe and the innate nature of the humans, Guru shows this and I observe the same. This is how I define the Sanatana Dharma. Now I have little more which I think we will take next class, sir. It's already time.
Thank you so much. That's wonderful. Excellent stuff. I'm so happy to have heard what you already have written, and kindly share that in any group that you are in. So we'll close for today. Thank you once again. We'll meet up next Saturday.